All right, good Sunday morning to all of you watching. I am Emerson Lotzia. This show is called The Sweat. For the next hour and a half, our experts will give you their top DFS and Sportsbook plays. We're going to be joined by the likes of Pat Mayo, Adam Levitan, the Sports Pope, Mike Francesa, and our little four-legged curly kraken. Yeah, his name is Tito. You guys are all very important too, so we need you to play along. You have questions about fantasy or Sportsbook plays, go ahead, hit us up. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. The DK Live app, I mean, whatever. If you want to email Julian Edlow, go ahead. I'm not sure what his email is. But allow me to introduce. What is it?
Just DM me on Twitter.
That's a weird email address. Weird. All right, allow me to introduce our panel, though, this morning. We have DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich. There's Julian Edlow. Slide into his DMs, and the fantasy girl, Rosalie Michaels. It is NFL spin move, so let's put a DK spin on the top news of the morning. Josh Allen has cleared concussion protocol. He's ready to face the Titans. How interested are you in him today against the Titans for $5,700, Reed?
No, I'm not that interested. I think there's other spots that you can go to if you want to go low at QB and save some money. There's some real contrarians out there like who want Chase Daniels, not a mix between the two guys, at 4,800 against Oakland. But if you look at this team in Tennessee, really strong in that front seven. And so there is a play in this game. It's John Brown for me. If you look at just his air yards, target share, and just TD upside, I think he's a play if you want to attack this game, but I'm just going to stay away.
Rosalie, talk to me.
Yeah, I agree with Reed. I have no desire to have any Josh Allen this week. You know, you look, the most difficult defense that he's faced was last week versus New England, so he was 11.2 DK fantasy points when he faces tough defenses. Guess what? Tennessee is a tough defense, and so, yeah, I like Tennessee's defense here. I'll agree with Reed. You could go John Brown as well, but I do like Tennessee's defense. If you're looking for a cheaper alternative at quarterback, like Reed said, there's a lot of choices out there, including I really like Teddy Bridgewater versus Tampa Bay this week at 5,200 as well.
Jeff, you like this Buffalo quarterback today?
I'm about as interested in rostering Josh Allen as I am in DMing Julian on Twitter, which means I have zero interest in Josh Allen.
Other people would disagree with you, Jeff.
Yeah, sure.
He's already yelling.
Sure.
Oh, no.
I'll be yelling all day.
Game total under 40, two of the slowest paced teams. Tennessee's pretty darn good against the quarterback, like bottom 10 in terms of, or top 10, I should say, in terms of opposing QBs with fantasy points against them. Josh Allen has not been good this year, 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Go down to Danny Dimes, who's getting golden payback. Probably going to have to throw a lot against the Minnesota team that's good against the run. So no interest in Josh Allen.
Okay, all right, Julian, go ahead, my man.
My DMs are exploding right now with people asking me questions about Josh Allen. And here's your answer. I will not be playing Josh Allen. It's a terrible matchup. I have no interest in pretty much any offensive players in this game. Low game total. Great defenses. They don't really move the ball. If you want somebody in this price range, $5,900 for Matt Ryan. He's averaging 44 pass attempts per week. This offense can't run the ball, and it's resulted in a really high floor for Matt Ryan. He had almost 20 DraftKings points last week without scoring a touchdown. That's the guy for under 6K that I'm looking at QB.
Rosalie, Mike Williams expected to return for the Chargers, missed one game with a back injury. He's $4,500. Would you play him at that price? And maybe are you a little less interested now in Keenan Allen?
First question, even at that price, no, because even when he is in the game, he's not all that effective or attractive. And I don't mean that as in any other way other than as a football player. He was 3 for 7 against Houston for 45 yards, 3 for 5 against Detroit for 83 yards, and 2 for 3 for 29 against Indianapolis. So no desire in Mike Williams whatsoever. He's a touchdown or bust type of guy. And Keenan Allen, yes, I am always interested in Keenan Allen. He has 452 yards, 47 targets on the year, 3 touchdowns. He's second in the league when it comes to red zone targets, 6 of 7 for 2 touchdowns. So the Chargers are all running back and Keenan Allen, so always interested in Keenan.
All right, Jeff, Mike Williams, yay or nay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super interested in Mike Williams per se. Like, I mean, obviously the guy got into the end zone 11 times last year, and he hasn't found the end zone yet this year. So we could see some touchdown, like positive regression coming from Mike Williams soon. But coming off the injury, against a still very solid Denver secondary. I mean, they're still good at limiting opposing wide receivers. I'm not going to go here. I'm not really that interested in this game, quite frankly. I think it does bump down Keenan Allen's touchdown upside a little bit, and I think Melvin Gordon coming back bumps down Keenan Allen's reception total and touchdown upside. So that worries me more from the perspective of with Williams and Gordon healthy. I think Keenan Allen can take a little bit of a hit. I think he's setting up as a tad bit of a trap play today in DFS.
Jules, is Keenan Allen a trap play?
I think he is. He's a guy that I had in my early cash build, and I just don't know if he's safe enough at this point. He's been such a target monster through the season. Didn't quite have it in Miami, although he had a long touchdown called back. But now we get Mike Williams back into the mix, and what really turns me off about Keenan Allen is that he's probably going to be shadowed by Chris Harris throughout this whole game, whether he's in the slot or not. One of the better corners in football. So, Harris is being mentioned on the trade market now. 0-4 Broncos team probably doesn't want to be there. He's probably going to try and show out so that he can get traded to a team where he's got a little bit more upside to win games. I think this is a spot where he could get the better of the matchup with Keenan Allen. In terms of Mike Williams, I think he is a worthwhile GPP play just because if Allen gets shut down, maybe a couple bombs can go to Mike Williams. He's got that type of upside, but just a guy to sprinkle in on GPPs.
Fowler?
Yeah, I think Julian made a really good point in that last.
Oh, yeah.
I know, I'm going to regret saying
that. Just DM
him,
Reed.
I know, I will later on. But look, I mean, talking about red zone targets, right? Los Angeles Chargers are 15th in red zone attempts per game and 10th in red zone passing percentage. That is really where Mike Williams makes his hay. He's coming back, and I get it. And Keenan Allen, I mean, we talk about how great he's been in this first quarter of the season, and his whole thing that always regresses or it just doesn't happen where he doesn't get that wide receiver one upside is his touchdown percentage. He's just overplaying what's expected of him. All these guys are now coming back. Melvin Gordon, Hunter Henry's going to come back in a few weeks, and so if you want to trade a guy like Keenan Allen in season long, I don't mind that at all to get as much as you can. But for this price, no. Give me Manny Sanders on the other side. You're going to pay up a little bit at 5,100, but he gets a way better matchup in this entire game. I think he has the best matchup.
Jeff, Michael Gallup's expected to play. He's missed a couple games with a knee injury here. He's 5K against Green Bay. You like his chances to maybe have a big game like he did in his season debut this year?
I think from the perspective of, especially from DFS when you're making lineups on DraftKings, this is an interesting game to game stack. It's two of the actually faster-paced teams in the league. You got a point total of over 46. These are two good quarterbacks, and whenever you have two quality teams, the shootout is always on the table. I think Michael Gallup with Jari Alexander and a slightly banged up Amari Cooper, I think that's what people might be overlooking here. I think Michael Gallup does have a chance here for a big game. Now, the problem is he's still coming off injury. The Packers have been decent against the pass, so this isn't a spot where you absolutely have to go out and roster Michael Gallup just because he's a little bit cheaper, but I really like the way he looked in the first two games. I would not be shocked if he found the end zone or just went for like 5 catches and some big yardage. So I think he's in play. Like I said, he's more of a game stacking target for GPPs, but yeah, absolutely. I do like his upside in this spot.
Julian, 25 DK fantasy points in week 1. Can he repeat that performance?
I would say he's not going to repeat it, but I feel the same way pretty much about Gallup as I do about Mike Williams. He's a guy coming back from injury that has some high upside. Maybe not quite as good of a matchup for Gallup, but we saw what he did in the first 2 weeks of the season. He looked really good with Dak Prescott. So he's obviously not a safe cash play coming back from injury. He's not a guy that I'm going to go out of my way to target. But if you're somebody making multiple lineups and you want to sprinkle them into your GPPs, like Mike Williams, I think either of those guys are fine to have pretty minimal exposure to.
Reed, he's being targeted in the games that he's playing. I
mean, the only guy I feel really comfortable playing this spot is Zeke on both sides of the ball, because when we talk about Green Bay's defense, it's a funnel defense, Julian. So even in multiple lineups, I'm not playing Gallup, because the guy's coming off an injury. This defense funnels everything to the running back. That's what they do. And the defensive coordinator, Penn, he talked about it. He said, we need to fix this a little bit because opposing teams are going to look and say, we can just run the ball out on these guys. And if he doesn't fix that, then that's how teams are going to beat up on Green Bay. And so even when you look at the secondary with the Packers, it's really, really good. And like the rush defense, not that good. So only Zeke and Tyron Smith. I mentioned it earlier. Tyron Smith is out. Dak's everything. His production is down. Touchdowns, everything is down. So that scares me.
Rosalie, is it worth taking a chance on this guy?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say this because Jeff might throw his board again. I don't know what happened there, but
Jeff, are you okay?
Oh, everything's good here, Emerson. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God.
But no, this is going to be a huge Zeke game. It is. And I love Michael Gallup. I think he's fantastic. The chemistry there with Dak is clearly fantastic. But he is 2 weeks removed from knee surgery. So I don't think they're going to need to roll him out in this game against a really, really good Green Bay secondary. And yeah, I love this price point for him. We probably won't see it again for Michael Gallup because I think he is going to be a rock star this year in the NFL. But there's great values in other areas, like Reed was saying. You could go Allison in the same game as 5K, and Dallas gives up the most short yardage passes, which speaks really well for both him and Jimmy Graham. Or you got Ridley versus Houston, which is good against the slot, but terrible against the perimeter. And then I love Philip Dorsett, 4,900 for the Patriots. So I love Gallup. I can't trust that he's going to actually do much in this game.
All right, Julian, the night game, T.Y. Hilton and Sammy Watkins both expected to play quickly. Who do you like more?
You can't like Sammy Watkins because he hasn't done anything since he went off in week 1. This is like he's still overpriced because of what he did a month ago. He's averaging less than 10 DK points in the 3 games since without Tyreek Hill on the field. So I pretty much like everyone more than Sammy Watkins.
Reed T.
Yeah, give me T.Y. Hilton. He has a better matchup against Morris Claiborne.
Rosalie.
Yeah, T.Y., he's third in red zone targets, has 4 touchdowns on the year. Give me T.Y.
Jeff, you back with us?
Yeah, no, I was never gone. Yeah, Sammy Watkins, I mean, catching touchdowns just casually and then letting guys bounce them out of his hands so we don't get the touchdown. I got to take T.Y. Hilton here in a healthy matchup. He could see up to 12 targets.
All right, guys, we'll get to some of your questions coming up. We will talk point spreads after this break, which includes Adam Kaufman catching up with the Sportsbook.
Patriots have a new kicker, banged up offense. Odds are, in my opinion, they would stay unbeaten Sunday, even if Mike Nugent goes out and misses every single kick he attempts. Because the Pats, they're facing the Redskins. They're terrible.
They stay unbeaten this week if you quarterback.
If I quarterbacked? Maybe if I kicked. I don't know about quarterbacked.
That's how bad Washington is now.
So you think New England then covers the 15 points?
Yeah, because they'll probably they might score 15 on defense in this game because of the amount of interceptions they might pick off. Whatever quarterback they play has been turning the ball over in incredible amounts. So they put the kid in last week. He threw 3 interceptions and a half. Mm-hmm. I mean, Keenum's been turning it over right and left. They are right now, other than the Dolphins, the worst team in the league. The Pats, who had no offense last week, 0. One of the worst games Tom Brady's ever played. Buffalo has a good defense. Pats can probably outscore them with their defense and specials. I would think the Pats will be a little better because Washington's bad on defense, and the Pats will win in a rout, yes.
Someone has to win in Cincinnati Sunday between 2 dreadful teams. Bengals get 3 points at home, which means it's basically a pick 'em. Do you like the home team or do you like the Cardinals?
I don't like either. I pass. I refuse to pick.
Pass.
These teams are so bad, I don't want to pick either one. I hope it ends in a 0-0 tie. I can't stand either team.
Just pretending the game doesn't even exist.
I'm rooting against. I have a rooting interest, though, because Arizona was one of my unders this year. I picked them. They were one of my 6 over-unders as an under, and they were under 5, so I just wanted to keep losing.
All right, so at least you have some rooting interest in the game.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Bills before, fresh off that close loss to the Pats. This time they're in Tennessee. It's another game the odds makers are giving to the home team just because they're the home team. Who are you going with?
Tennessee has got a real Jekyll and Hyde personality now. And what I notice is they play well as a dog and they play badly as a favorite. I think I think the game will be close. I would not be surprised by it being a really tight field goal type game. So I'm going to obviously go with the 3-point decision, but no more. Absolutely no more.
Bears have won a few in a row. They're kind of heating up anyway. Facing the Raiders in London, only 40 projected points. Why are we subjecting European football fans to this matchup?
You know, I'm not a big fan of any of the London games. I think the whole thing's just ridiculous. I don't like any part of it. Raiders played a good game last week. Everyone thinks now that the Bears will miss Trubisky. They won't. They'll be better with Daniels at quarterback. He's a better quarterback. I think the Bears will put a big pass rush on and be good on defense and probably win it by a touchdown.
Saints are kind of winning in spite of Teddy Bridgewater. Still, he can do no wrong, though.
They're not throwing the ball down the field at all. They're playing so conservatively. It's unbelievable.
Well, we're going to see what happens here because New Orleans perfect at home, hosting Tampa, which has not lost on the road. Which way is this one going to break?
Listen, I'm going back on the Saints this week if the Bucs go in there and win this one. Now, listen, I was surprised when Bucs went to Carolina and won. I picked against the Bucs last week when they went out to the West Coast and stunned the Rams. I absolutely will be stunned if the Bucs win this game. I agree with you that they are trying to coach around Bridgewater. Bridgewater's been unimpressive. They don't throw the ball down the field, but I don't think the Bucs can slow down their skilled position players. Just get the ball to them in open spaces. That'll be enough. I think the Saints keep rolling.
You got a pair of 2-2 teams in the Meadowlands, Giants, Vikings. Do you expect another win for Daniel Jones? Keep the hot streak alive?
This is going to be a real interesting test. They didn't, to me, the Giants are 2-2, but they're not as good as 2-2 because they should have lost to Tampa. They missed a 34-yard chip shot. They beat the Redskins, who were god-awful. Last week, I was not impressed with Jones. I was impressed with him the week before. I wasn't impressed with him, especially this week. Now they're going to be up against a very good defense. The one thing is, and Cook, who's been the best running back in the sport right now, so far, he's been the number one running back in the league this year, in my estimate. I think the Giants have a lot of trouble with him. I'm not a Cousins fan, and he has been stinking it up. I mean, completely stinking it up. If he plays badly, Giants can hang in. I think Minnesota's the better team, and I think it shows this week. I'll be surprised if the Giants win.
Okay, it's time to hit the books. Good morning to Hal Tendler, DraftKings Sportsbook Manager at Resorts Atlantic City, Brad Carpenter, DraftKings Sportsbook Manager at Scarlet Pearl Casino, and Gavin Mercado, DraftKings Sportsbook Manager at Del Lago. This is when you guys give us a on-the-ground view of what's cooking at DK Sportsbooks around the nation. Brad, I'll start with you. Which lines have moved the most this week, either due to team news or better action? That sounds good. What do you think, Gavin? That sounds great as well. Hal? Can anybody hear me? Raise your hand if anyone can hear me. Can we go to, let's say, our underdog parlay of the week since they can't hear me? Can we do that? Should you guys know? Can they hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Over here.
Wonderful, guys, because I had no idea what the hell I was going to say next. Okay, Brad, which lines have moved the most this week due to either team news or better action?
We got, actually, it's shaping up to be one of our busiest handles of the NFL season so far. We've taken 5 games of 5-figure bets. We got the Broncos +6, Titans -2.5, Jets 14.5, Steelers +3.5, and the Titans -3. So we got some pretty big bets out there today.
Okay, Hal, what about you, my friend?
All right, it looks like the Bears moved from 4.5 to 6, and we had a lot of action on the 49ers. It opened at 3. The guy got it early in the week at 3. It's now up to 4.5.
Gavin.
So you see a lot of action on the Bills game, a lot of line movement going through there with the question on Josh Allen, whether he was going to play or not. We've seen it start up at 3, drop down to 2.5, bump up to 4. It's at 3.5 right now, and that's where it's at.
Hal, which teams are getting the most action in your neck of the woods?
Right now, it looks like the 49ers are getting the most action up here.
Brad, what are you seeing?
Well, as usual, all the Saints people are coming in this morning, and then ticket count. the Ravens are getting a lot of action today.
Gavin, sounds like the Bills as usual for you, huh?
Actually, with Philadelphia playing the Jets, we're seeing a lot of action on the Eagles today. More than usual.
Hey, Brad, biggest bets or maybe the parlay with the most legs you've seen so far on this Sunday?
Well, we did a ton of 10-team parlays. The biggest bet has been on the Broncos.
All right, Hal, what about you?
We had an interesting parlay, a 5-leg parlay, all money lines. Guy bet 4 digits. He took the more Ravens money line, the Bears money line, New England money line, the Eagles money line, and Chiefs, all on his 5-leg parlay.
Man, Gavin, you got something like that?
We got a 5-figure 3-leg parlay, all money lines as well, just like Hale over there. Kansas City money line, Patriots money line, and then the Philly money line on it.
I love it. Love it. All right, last one for you guys here. I'll start with you, Hal. What's been the most popular prop bet for this week?
We had 2 of them. One was under 292.5 yards passing for Jameis Winston. It opened at minus 117 yesterday. It moved to minus 143 today. And the other one was Adam Thielen over 67.5 yards at minus 115.
Brad?
Well, we've just opened up our props on the Saints-Buccaneers game this morning. We haven't taken a lot of action on that. And then later this afternoon, we'll be opening up props on the night game, Chiefs and Colts.
All right, most popular prop bet you've seen, Gavin.
I wouldn't say it's a prop bet exactly. It's a unique bet, but the biggest one we're seeing is first half options on the Chargers game today. A lot of action on that first half lines.
Gentlemen, thank you. Always a good time. Up next, which game spreads are too high and too low in the eyes of our analysts. But first, it is the living legend Tito delivering our DK Sportsbook underdog parlay of the week. All right, gang, it's the moment of truth. Time for Tito here to select the parlay that'll be receiving odds boost on the DK Sportsbook. This week we have 3 options. The first parlay is the Steelers hosting the Ravens combined with the Giants hosting the Vikings. Option number 2, the Browns who face the 49ers parlayed with the Colts who play the Chiefs. Number 3 parlay, the Packers taking on the Cowboys and the Falcons who play the Texans. Time to release the Curly Kraken. Go make people some money, handsome. Yes! We did it! Tito, you did it! Ladies and gentlemen, your underdog parlay of the week on the DK Sportsbook. Get after it. Get on! The first time I met Tito was in the cold cut section at a local grocery store here in Boston. Now he's delivering odds boost on the DK Sportsbook. I mean, that's America. Chase your dreams, kids. The sweat rolls on with DK contributors right now. Steve Buchanan, you are here. Greg Ehrenberg, you are here. Gary and Thorne, it's good to see you as well. It's high or low time. So are the following spreads too high or too low? And hook us up with a DFS play from each game, okay? Parlay of the week, Packers and the Falcons. It was plus 634. Now, thanks to Tito, it's plus 750. Are these boosted odds enough for you to like this parlay, though, Steve?
The only thing I'm not crazy about is the Packers side. And, you know, if the Packers are going to sneak out a win in this game, they have to stop Ezekiel Elliott. And with the way their run defense has looked, I just don't see that being possible. You know, the Texans and the Falcons, you know, expects to be a shootout in that one. So really kind of a coin flip with that one. Thankfully, this isn't a spread parlay because the Falcons are basically terrible at that, so that would be a no for me. But I just don't feel like the Packers have enough to beat the Cowboys here. You know, the secondary on both sides have been great, but the run defense for the Packers has just been so bad. I think Zeke Elliott's going to run all over him in this game, so I would like the odds a lot. It's, you know, for a 2-teamer, but just not going with this one.
All right, Greg, what do you think?
So I disagree with Steve because I'm not confident in the Falcons today. Like, I just don't understand what it is that they do well as a team. Historically, since Matt Ryan's been there, they've been much worse on the road than at home, like even more significantly so than most teams are. And then the other issue is in previous years, at least we've been able to say that, hey, they have a really good passing game. While they do have Julio Jones, and I think he presents a lot of problems for the Texans, still the Falcons are 19th in pass offense DVOA, so there's just not anything they do above average. I think they're going to have a tough time winning in Houston today.
All right, Gary, and do you believe in Tito's choice?
I don't think it's terrible. I mean, at plus 750, look, there's obviously flaws with both the Packers and the Falcons, probably more flaws with the Falcons, but I don't think either of these games or the outcome of either of these games is set in stone. I mean, I do have the same concerns with the Packers run defense that Steve does, but if you go through the Cowboys game log so far this season, they've played 3 terrible teams, and the one good team they faced without their starting quarterback, they lost. They really don't have a defining win as of yet. So I think that game's pretty much wide open. And yeah, the Falcons are flawed. They're not a good team. They've got defensive injuries yet again for what feels like the 17th consecutive season. But the Texans also haven't shown me a whole lot. So plus 750 seems pretty fair.
Greg, the Eagles are one of the biggest favorites of the day hosting the Jets. 14.5-point spread. Is that too high or too low? And give us a DFS play from this game, please.
So I think it's a little bit too high just because the Eagles have really played to their opponents so far this year. All 4 of their games have been one-possession games. And then even if we go back to week 1, really favorable matchup at home against the Redskins. The Redskins have been awful this year, and they trailed for most of the game and had to come back in the second half to win and only ended up winning by 4 points. So just because Eagles games have been so competitive this year, I find it really hard to lay the 14.5 points with them. From a DFS standpoint, I don't really love this game all that much, but Zach Ertz, if I have to pick somebody, I think he's looking at some positive touchdown regression going forward. He's yet to score this year.
Gary, and too high or too low with this 14.5-point spread?
I'm going to say it's slightly too low, but I do understand what Greg's saying, and the stats back this up. The Eagles' last 6 home games against sub-500 teams, they're 0-6 ATS, but the way I look at this is the Jets are a special brand of sub-500 road team. They are particularly horrible. They are dead last in yards per drive, dead last in points per drive, dead last in drive success rate. And I would like to remind everyone, this is a league that both the Washington Redskins and Miami Dolphins inhabit. So for the Jets to be dead last in so many categories with those 2 teams as their competition is really just kind of dumbfounding. They have been atrocious, and I just don't expect them to be able to move the football the way they want to move the football on the ground against this Eagles front 7. Now, through the air, something they might be forced to do in the second half, that's a bit of a different story. And I don't think it's really going out on a limb to say I like a wide receiver against this Eagles secondary. But I think this is the week Robbie Anderson actually shows up. He's the dictionary definition of a GPP play. He is boom or bust. This is a boom matchup against a secondary that's allowed the most yards to opponent wide receivers, 221.5 through 4 games this season.
Steve, Gary really has me sold on how bad the Jets are.
Yeah, they are really bad, but I just think the spread's just a little bit too high. Like we kind of alluded to it, the Eagles secondary just has so many injuries right now. They've been so bad, and this is with the injuries. I mean, even coming into this season, there were so many questions about how bad this secondary was. Now they have a brash of injuries to deal with, and kind of going back to the whole Robbie Anderson point, he's only 4,500. He's facing a team that allows 14.7 yards per reception so far this season. Like, there is no reason to think that Robbie Anderson can't break off one of those huge, massive down the field touchdowns, for 60, 70 yards or so. So I like him a lot in this spot for DFS purposes, but I just think the spread's just a little bit too high. I think they can, at least the Jets can somewhat maintain their competitiveness in this game somewhat just because of the injuries to that Eagles secondary. I think there's just too much to overcome.
Care Bear, the Vikings are 5-point favorites when they hit the road facing the Giants. Is that spread too high or too low?
I think it's a little too high. This isn't exactly me saying I want to bet on the Giants. This is more just me not really trusting the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there's been a lot of stats floating around this week about how bad the Vikings have been when forced to play on the road outdoors. So I don't have to regurgitate those, but I will say they are 1-5 ATS their past 6 games on the road. So there's a track record here for them just not being able to succeed. This game really kind of screams backdoor cover to me. The Vikings have a great defense, but it's a defense that is much higher in DVOA against the run than it is against the pass. I think, not that I expect a whole lot from Danny Dimes, but I think he's live here at the very least. This isn't the toughest matchup he could possibly draw. I think the Giants can score some points. So I'm going to take the Giants to cover this line.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
Dalvin Cook, I just think, would be the one guy you have to mention for a DFS play in this game. He's touched the ball at least 20 times in every single game this season. That's just a trait you don't find in a lot of players anymore.
Steve, you trust the Vikings enough for them to cover?
No, I mean, honestly, the Vikings just feel like an absolute mess right now. Like in total, this is a stay away game from me here. I really think this game could go either way. But, just going back to the Giants here, they're also getting Golden Tate back in the mix. That's obviously a different dynamic that's going to have how that offense looks. Golden Tate could be in the slot more, whereas Sterling Shepard is lined up on the outside. I just think there's a lot more to like for the Giants in this one. And if you want to talk about a play, we want to go back to Wayne Gallman here. It's more of a tournament play for me here, but if you're thinking that the Vikings are going to be ahead in this one, Gallman's going to get the passing down work. He's going to be their goal line back, so it's not someone that you feel great about putting in your lineup, although he did look pretty decent in that last game. He had 18 carries. He had 7 targets in that game last week, so it's not like he's the absolute worst play that you could ever have, but there's nothing to like about the Vikings right now with the off-season drama going on, them not wanting to pass against a team that really is so bad in the secondary too as well. But I'm just going to roll with the Giants in this one.
Okay. You got a DFS play?
Yeah, it was Wayne Gallman.
That was Wayne Gallman?
Yeah, it was Wayne Gallman.
Is who you like? Okay,
yeah, that's
great.
the guy I like.
Greg, betting against the Giants at home used to be a pretty smart way to make money, but not now that Daniel Jones is in the picture, right?
Yeah, I like the Giants quite a bit in this spot. They're significant underdogs, more than a field goal. And these are two teams kind of going the opposite direction. The Giants have looked much better since Daniel Jones took over at quarterback, whereas the Vikings are really struggling lately. I don't really know what's going on with Kirk Cousins in the passing game. The whole Stephon Diggs situation is all a mess. So from a DFS standpoint, it's really hard to trust anything going in the Vikings passing game right now. It's going to have to be, I think, Dalvin Cook if you want to roster somebody from the Vikings side of the game. But the issue I have with him is that I prefer Ezekiel Elliott and I prefer Christian McCaffrey on the high end of running backs this week. So overall, just not a game I have a whole lot of exposure to. But the Giants are my favorite bet for the spread on the slate.
Okay, Panthers are a field goal favorite over the Jaguars. What do you think about this one, Steve?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one for the Jaguars. I like the Panthers in this spot. I mean, just so you feel, I know you're upset. It's okay. It's just not the Jaguars' week this week. I'm sorry. I mean, Minshew has been relying upon. He is staring me down. Minshew has been relying upon DJ Chark so much. He's probably going to end up seeing James Bradbury in coverage, who's been honestly one of the better corners in the league. He doesn't get enough buzz. I mean, he's been targeted against 17 times, only allowed 7 receptions for 96 yards so far. In terms of a DFS play, I really like Curtis Samuel. He's 10th overall in air yards amongst all receivers right now. He's been one of the better plays, and he's had 27 targets over his last 3 weeks, but everyone wants to keep playing DJ Moore. Everyone wants to keep playing Will Fuller in the same salary range. So I like Curtis Samuel a lot. I think he's going to be a sneaky play in this spot. Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Steve here. I like the Panthers in this spot. Their defense has been really, really good this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a rough spot for the Jaguars offense. And Leonard Fournette, I think, could be a fairly popular play this week. I don't like him. I think he's a fade going up against the Panthers defense. And the Panthers defense at only 2,600, I think that makes for a really good value play. It's hard to find cheap defenses that I really like on this slate. And the Panthers defense is one that really stands out to me.
Garion.
I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction because I want to earn your love, Emerson.
Yes!
But also,
I do love you.
Some of the stats here are a little bit staggering. I mean, as these guys mentioned, Carolina's defense as a whole has been fantastic so far this season. They're 5th in DVOA, but they're 4th against the pass and 29th against the run. I just feel like this folds right into what the Jacksonville Jaguars want to do as an offense. I really think Leonard Fournette can run all over them today. And I like him as a DFS play. I know it's going to be a popular one after he exploded last week, but he's still got room for positive regression. I mean, it's only he and Le'Veon Bell among the 20 running backs with 50 carries this season who have yet to score a touchdown. At some point, he's just going to fall into the end zone. It's bound to happen sooner or later, and I think this is going to happen. And also, Carolina has not been all that strong a home team, despite some of the narratives we remember from early on in 2018. They are only 1-4 ATS their past 5 home games. So give me the Jaguars in this one.
All right, gentlemen, let's go to the YouTube and answer some questions. Steven, Julio or Hopkins?
That's a tough one. I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with either one, but I just like the individual matchup for Julio a lot more.
Garion, do you agree?
I do agree. I think Julio's in a fantastic spot this week.
Okay, Gregory, how high should we be on Tariq Cohen today?
So I'm not all that high on Cohen. I think this could be more of a David Montgomery spot. And the other thing, too, with Cohen is, like, he's not playing a ton of snaps. I don't think he's going to be getting work in the red zone. And I would rather just pay up for a running back, if I'm being honest, this week, and then go cheaper at wide receiver.
Garion, Wentz, Ryan, or Watson?
I'm going to go with Wentz there, actually. I think this is a really good spot. The Eagles have the highest implied point total of any team on the main slate. And Matt Ryan's just going to be really, really chalky this week, and I'd rather go with Wentz.
Okay, Steve, last one here. I feel like Brent on Facebook is having a really bad season because he has Colt McCoy question mark.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, he's going to have
to... Can I answer that? No.
Can I
Steve,
answer?
do you want to try it?
I mean, he's going to have to throw a lot. At least you have that going for you, but not against his
Against the Patriots defense.
Yeah, no, not a chance. Nope.
Yeah, man.
Bad season.
Good luck with everything today, man. We got over-under game totals coming up right after my conversation with Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. You just mentioned, too, some of the injuries Dallas is dealing with. I mean, Tyron Smith, week to week, high ankle sprain here. I mean, normally we wouldn't really be talking about a left tackle, but this dude's a Pro Bowler. So what's the impact on guys like Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott if Smith can't go against Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, and on Wednesday, they actually didn't have either one of their tackles practicing. They do feel like right tackle Lyle Collins will play, but that's not really the case for Tyron Smith. And so, they're going to – the reason why that they made sure and re-signed Cameron Fleming in the offseason is for moments like this. He's been a journeyman over his career. He started 23 games, mostly with the Patriots, but he has started a Super Bowl. There's not many – I don't think anybody on the Cowboys has been able to say that. So he's been a successful, serviceable offensive tackle, and he started 3 games for him last year. They won them all. So I do think that they'll be able to function, but it's not the same with Dak's backside not knowing who's coming off the edge. And I know the Packers have some really good rushers as well.
Yeah, I know their run D isn't super fantastic, not at the top of the game there, and amongst teams in the league here. You expect kind of a bounce back game for Zeke? I believe only like 45 yards last week.
I do. I think that through the middle there, that they should be able to run the ball, much better than they did against the Saints. And we'll see. Green Bay's had 10 days to kind of shore up those issues that they've had against the Eagles and Vikings, but their test against Zeke will probably be the toughest one that they've had. So it'll be interesting to see what Green Bay comes up with there. That's why I think it's so important to have Gallup back, because when you have Gallup and you have all those weapons now and you can really be as balanced as you want to be, I don't think the Cowboys were able to do that this last couple of games. They got by with the Dolphins one, but certainly not with the Saints, and the Saints just kind of sold out to run. I also think you'll see Dak run the ball a little bit more in this game. This team is very successful when he runs for more than 30 yards or so. I think it's like 12-4. They need to get him out there on the edge and let him do some things with his legs.
All right, well, before we get you out of here, let's take a trip down Narrative Street. I mean, Randall Cobb facing the team that drafted him in 2011 says it's just another week, but he was in Green Bay for, nearly a decade. So what have you seen from him early on in the week? Is he going to be a little more dialed in than normal? What do we expect here?
Yeah, I mean, and he actually talked not too long ago. I think he even admitted that it wasn't a normal week. But,
okay.
It was funny. I think it was the second question to him. They asked him, did Dez catch it? I mean, they're still talking about that game. He was on the other side. And he gave a nice answer of probably is a catch today, and it wasn't a catch.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, easy answer there. But I think that, it's a big game for him, obviously, against the Packers. But, his first 4 games have kind of been hit or miss a little bit with the Cowboys. He's had some nice moments. He's had some drops in some key times. One led to an interception. One was really big last week on 3rd down. It killed a drive in the 4th quarter. So him and Dak just haven't been on the same page exactly. But I think that, Dak, I'm sure, is happy to have him. And I guarantee Aaron Rodgers wishes he was still there with all the receiver issues that they have. For sure. All right. Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. Thanks, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Okay. See you later. That's what we're doing today. Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody, an interactive show unlike anything else on the planet. The only show in the history of Internet TV that you can have your questions answered by our legendary analysts. Ask away on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Jeff, Julian, and Greg, they're back for some over-under, peeping game totals. Hook us up with a DFS play from each game, too, please, if you remember. Jeff, Falcons, Texans, 49.5, over or under?
The trends say that you should maybe be leaning to the under here. I mean, the Texans as home favorites, the over is only hitting 5 out of the last 16 games, but I really don't think Atlanta is a very good team. They're terrible past DVOA, and I feel like this is a really get-right spot for Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm going to take the over here. I feel like Texans put up 30-plus points. I'll go with DeAndre Hopkins. I know it's chalky. There's a ton of receivers that are in play here, by the way. I think this whole game is in play. But I'll just go with DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, T.Y. Hilton went off for like 65 yards and a touchdown, one half a play against Desmond Trufant. What's Hopkins going to do in a full game?
Julian, over or under in your fantasy play, please?
Yes, screw the trends. These defenses stink. This game is going over. I don't see either of these defenses being able to contain good offenses. While I don't like to try and figure out what's going on with the Falcons and why they're so bad sometimes, they'll probably be pretty pissed about being bad against Tennessee at home and come out slinging it against the Texans here. Neither team has much of a run game. They obviously prefer to throw the ball, so I see this one going over. As for a DFS play, I think Matt Ryan, even though he's going to be super popular, he's such a great cash play at quarterback at 5,900 just because of that lack of run game. He's averaging 44 pass attempts per game, has over 300 yards in every game, scored almost 20 DK points last week without throwing a touchdown.
Gregory.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get behind Julian's narrative that the Falcons have been so bad this year they're just going to play well because they're upset about it. They're probably just bad.
Offensively.
But I'm siding with the over in this game. I think it's going to shoot out. If we look at the Texans' defense, probably the biggest hole in their defense has been against number one wide receivers, and the Falcons have a very capable number one wide receiver in Julio Jones. So I think that there's a route for the Falcons to get their offense going. I don't think they have any ability to stop the Texans' offense. So I think Deshaun Watson's going to have a big game. I think Hopkins going to have a big game. And then as a boom-bust play, I really like Will Fuller in this spot. I know a lot of people are talking him up, and we know all about his air yards and how it hasn't really contributed to fantasy points so far this year. But the upside's there, and he is somebody with slate-breaking upside. We saw it, I think it was 2 years ago, where it was like 4 of his first 7 catches of the year went for touchdowns. And that's something that Will Fuller could do. He could be somebody who catches the ball like 5 times and 2 or 3 of them end up going for touchdowns.
All right, let's go Patriots and Redskins. And what's that? Wait a minute. We have exclusive video of Tom Brady arriving to FedEx Field in D.C. God. This is absolutely incredible. Appears to be wearing women's clothing, which is absolutely fine, whatever floats your boat. Julian, after seeing this, you've got to pound the over here at 41.5, correct?
I was pretty sure I saw Tom Brady walking around in D.C. in a suit earlier today. I don't know how he had time to stroll down that hallway in a tank top.
That's Brendan Glasheen. Never mind, we were duped.
Oh, fooled me. Glash every week with these videos, looking exactly like TB12. Really stunning. I like the under here because Washington stinks and the Patriots' defense is really good. The only thing that concerns me is Tom Brady should be a little bit angry about the performance that he put on in Buffalo last week. He was not good, and Washington's defense is going to be in a tough spot trying to stop him this week. But the Patriots have still allowed 13 points from their defense this season. I would prefer the Washington team total under, but I'll take the under on the game as well.
All right, Greg, what do you think here, man? Brendan Glasheen dressing up as Giselle.
Yeah, he's really made a lot of enemies around here. He's beefing with you on Twitter. Jeff only recently learned his name, so there's a lot going on. He was Brandon for a really long time around here. So for this game, I don't even remember what game we're talking about anymore.
It's the Patriots Redskins. Patriots Redskins.
Patriots Redskins. I don't see how the Redskins are going to put points up on the board in this spot. They only scored 3 points against the Giants last week, and the Giants' defense is awful. Patriots defense has been arguably the best in the league, probably is the best defense in the league, and now Colt McCoy's playing quarterback. So unless the Patriots are going to score 45 points, which I guess is possible, I see this game going the under. That's my lean here. From a DFS perspective, it looks like Sony Michel could be pretty popular now that Rex Burkhead's out. So that's putting me on James White a little bit. James White also gets a really big boost in games that Burkhead doesn't play, and I think that he makes for just natural leverage off Michel because every time that White makes a big play, it's taking away a touch that Sony Michel would have had.
Okay, Jeffrey, what do you think?
First of all, if that was Tom Brady, then I'm going to actually pound the Washington Redskins money line. But it wasn't.
I don't disagree.
So, look, the under is hit. The over is 3-7. The last 10 games that the Patriots are away favorites. So it's not hitting at a very high rate. Their defense is spectacular. Washington scored, like 3 points against the Giants last week? It's going to be a tough road for the over to hit here. The Patriots could put up 40, but I think the under is a safe play.
Greg, Buccaneers against the Saints. That's at 47. Where are you going, and how about a DFS play?
So I'm leaning the under here. I know that Jameis Winston's been really good lately. However, I just don't buy into it. He's so inconsistent, like good games, bad games. And I think that a lot of people are going to look at the last couple games for Winston, which we've seen from him in the past. Like, oh, Winston throws for 500 yards. Winston throws for 300 yards. And then he just comes back and he throws like 3 interceptions. So I think that makes the Saints defense kind of a sneaky play that nobody's going to be on this week, just because of the recency bias towards Jameis Winston. And from the Saints offense, I think Michael Thomas is a bit too cheap for this matchup. The Buccaneers pass defense has not been particularly good. And even with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, we've seen double-digit targets from Thomas. It's been pretty much the same volume that he usually gets.
Jeff, over or under 47?
I'm same track with Greg with the DFS play with Michael Thomas. I actually really think he's a sneaky play. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater was pretty efficient against Dallas, and the Tampa Bay secondary is just terrible. Like, I don't know who's going to cover Michael Thomas here. So he could see 15 targets in this game. But I'm going to take the over. I still think even if Winston has a bad game, Tampa Bay could put up 20 to 23 points. And I like the way Teddy Bridgewater looked last week, a much weaker defense. So I do like the chance of the over hitting it.
All right, Jules?
I'm going under here. Tampa, obviously, with the 55 in LA last week, I think does inflate the total a little bit here. And we know how the Saints like to play. Obviously, it was against Dallas, but look at that 12-10 game last Sunday night. They try and, with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, they try and grind these games out. And I think that's what this game is going to be. And Tampa's defense has actually been really good. I don't mind them at 2,200. I know Greg mentioned earlier Carolina at 2,600. I like that play a lot. But I think that's going to have people off of Tampa's defense at 2,200. They've been coming up with sacks. Bridgewater, not a guy that necessarily gets rid of the ball quickly. They've been forcing turnovers as well. I think Tampa at 2,200 is a defense to consider.
All right, Jeff, over or under 55.5 for Sunday night's Colts-Chiefs contest, the biggest total on the slate?
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one. I mean, it sounds like it's just natural over with Mahomes and stuff like that. And I am going to lean towards the over here. The factor is the Colts are still playing at a faster pace, even with Jacoby Brissett. And I think T.Y. Hilton playing is the big factor for me. Again, you're looking for the Colts just to put up 20, 25 points here. And I think with T.Y. Hilton and Jacoby Brissett, who's been playing well enough, I think they can accomplish that. I have no problems with the Chiefs putting up 30+. So I'm going to lean towards the over here.
Okay, Julian.
Yeah, going over. The Chiefs have gone over this number in 3 of the 4 games this season, including a game last week in Detroit that was kind of ugly for their offense, and Mahomes didn't even get a touchdown, and they still made it over this number. So I think that the Colts, it sounds like they're going to have T.Y. Hilton. That's an important piece, obviously. They're going to be playing from behind, most likely, trying to sling the ball, put some points on the board, and I think this is a great bounce-back spot for Mahomes. So I think we're going to get into the 60s here.
Gregory.
I'm going to go the opposite way and go with the under here, just because I think the Colts' game plan for this game is just going to be pound the ball with Marlon Mack. So I think they're going to try to slow the game down. They're going to try to keep Mahomes off the field for as much as possible. Because as well as Brissett has played so far this year, it's just hard to see the Colts getting into a game willingly where they're going to have to match Mahomes with Brissett. So I can't see them trying to turn this into a shootout. I think they try to slow the game down. And this is a really massive point spread. And it's also been trending down. It was at, I think, as high as 56.5 earlier in the week, down to 55.5 now. So that's the way it's trending.
Okay, are the following prop totals too high or too low? That is next, right after this little preview of Chiefs-Colts.
Adam Kaufman with DK Live's Reed Fowler and Ben Zwyman for this week's Sunday Night Showdown, presented by Kentucky Fried Chicken. Fellas, I suppose since KC is playing, we need an F in the middle, right, for the branding, so let's go with fun, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure, yeah, let's do that. All right. Reed, the chefs, if you will, favored by 11 points. Okay, who's your Colonel's pick for the captain spot?
Well, main chefs it's going to be Mahomes, but
has to be.
I can't steal Zwyman's pick. A little spoiler there. It's going to be Travis Kelce. And if you look at the Colts, well, even last year to this year, they've been very favorable to tight ends. They have 34 targets, a couple touchdowns. That's really good for tight ends. You need those touchdowns. And so Travis Kelce, that defense in Indy really funnels towards a tight end. So give me Travis Kelce.
That was more than a little spoiler. It was everything, actually. But go ahead
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, if Reed thinks that Kelce's going to get some touchdowns, then that's good for Mahomes, right? I like Mahomes to bounce back in this spot. Last week against the Lions, he didn't throw any touchdowns. The Chiefs had a lot of running touchdowns in that game, and they had that comeback win. So I think they'll take that momentum back home to Arrowhead. And again, the Colts are coming in. Their defense is banged up. Malik Hooker's out. Darius Leonard's dealing with a concussion. So I think this is a perfect spot for Mahomes to bounce back. And again, we may see Tyreek Hill come back too. So that that all bodes well for Mahomes.
What are you cooking up with your next pick here? No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's three touchdowns. They're second in the league in terms of giving up touchdowns to tight ends. Just want to make sure I give the right information.
Well, it's important that people know that. Look, we're all just winging it here. Go ahead.
So, side dish?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, Nyheim Hines. I think if the Chiefs are going up, if the Colts are playing from behind, the Colts are going to have to throw the ball a lot. Marlon Mack's banged up. He's got an ankle injury he's dealing with. Nyheim Hines has been used a lot in the passing game. He's got 16 targets. That's tied for third on the Colts. So, yeah, if they want to get that pass attack and come back in the game, I think Nyheim Hines is in store for a pretty good game.
It's Hines' quarterback. It's Jacoby Brissett. Look, playing at Arrowhead's going to be tough, but this guy has got this offense going. He's averaging over 280 yards passing, just one interception in his last few weeks. It's going to be tough, but he's not a bad play either.
All just a mouthful. All right, that's going to do it for us in the latest edition of this Sunday night series presented by KFC, where you can get your $5 fill-up mac and cheese bowl like this.
Okay, guys, before we bring back Steve Garion and Rosalie for some high or low, we want to announce the winner of our caption contest this week. Maybe we could punch it up on the screen for you. On the Sweat DK account, the Twitter account, which is @SweatDK, we asked you to caption this picture, yes, of Jay Gruden and Casey Keenum for a shot at 100 DK dollars. The winner of the contest is your pal MCow. All right. Whose caption read, I know the Minneapolis thing was a miracle, but this has been a nightmare. Congrats! You are now a proud owner of 100 DK dollars. Don't spend it all in one place. All right, now to our NFL panel, and let's start with Marquise Brown. Great in week one. Since then, not so much. Receiving yard total 63.5. Steven, over or under? Is this too big of a total for him?
No, I don't think it's a big total. It's just like with these guys that are such deep down threats, like someone like Deshaun Jackson or whatever, it's so hard to bet the under on these totals because realistically, they can hit it in one shot. And that's somebody, like Marquise Brown is able to do that. And what I like about this matchup too, he's going to be seeing Joe Hayden in coverage, who's already allowed 116 yards on 11 receptions that he's allowed so far. 56 have come after the catch. So if there's somebody to hit the total against Hayden, Marquise Brown would be that guy. I just wouldn't feel comfortable taking the under on this one with the speed threat that he is. So I'm going to go over on this total.
Okay, Rosalie, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Steve there. Yeah, you look at Marquise Brown, and yeah, he's inconsistent, but the volatility is good for GPP, right? I mean, he's still number 3 with 633 air yards and yards after the catch. So, he's still getting the targets, and the Steelers have really struggled this year containing those field stretching receivers. Look at what Philip Dorsett did against them, DK Metcalf. And like Steve mentioned, that matchup with Hayden, Marquise is fast. Hayden is not. So I really like that matchup. I think he'll stretch the field and get a touchdown.
Gare Bear.
Yeah, I'll just echo what these guys have said. I mean, even though the production hasn't necessarily been there and it's gone steadily, it's been in a steady decline ever since week 1's performance against the Dolphins, he's still 13th among all wide receivers in targets from week 2 to week 4. So the volume is still there. The opportunity is obviously very high. As Rosalie mentioned, the air yards have been phenomenal. And they suggest that he can easily surpass this total. And then when it comes to the Steelers, for the season, they've allowed the most yards per attempt to opponent wide receivers of any team in the AFC this year, up at 10.6 yards per attempt. Not even per completion. So I think this is a matchup prime for Marquise Brown to shine.
All right, Ezekiel Elliott's combined rushing and receiving yard total 110.5 against the Packers. That number too high or too low, Garion?
I think it's too low. Look, this is really the ideal spot for Zeke, and it's the reason he's going to be as popular as he is. That and the fact he's like the only guy playing at 4 o'clock apparently. But Green Bay's been atrocious in every aspect of defense against opposing running backs so far this season. No NFC team has given up more adjusted line yards per carry, 5.34 in the NFC than Green Bay so far this season, and they've allowed 9 targets per game to opposing running backs. So whether it's through the air, whether it's on the ground, it just seems like it's going to be Zeke Elliott's world this week.
Steve, too high, too low?
Yeah, I think this is too low. I mean, when you look at what the Packers have allowed average on the ground and through the air to opposing running backs, it's 185 yards per game. Then we just saw Ezekiel Elliott get 7 targets last week, made 6 receptions for 30 yards. Obviously not the highest output, but with what he can do on the ground and give you through the air, with just how poor this Packers defense has been against opposing running backs, I don't know how you don't like this total. Like, again, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking the under with Brown. I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable taking the under on Elliott, so this is a 100% over for me for Zeke.
Rosalie, how do you feel about the total?
Yeah, the guys said it. You know, the Packers have they're number one in for funnel defense against the run. They're great against the pass, not against the run. So we're going to see a crap ton of Zeke today. Yeah, this is an easy mark for him to hit.
Jimmy Graham, too high, too low, 3.5 receptions. Garion?
I don't feel nearly as confident about this one as I do about the last two, but I will take the hesitant over here. Someone's got to catch the ball in Green Bay. They're on the road. They're underdogs. They should be passing in this contest, especially considering how good Dallas' defense has been against the run. Look, I think MVS is probably the biggest winner of Davante Adams not playing, but we did see Jimmy Graham get 6 targets last week. He played 71% of the snaps, which is a good sign. For someone of his age, it's hard to get out there and play 70% of the snaps when you're 800 years old, like Jimmy Graham. But
wow,
I do think the narrative that the Cowboys have struggled against the tight end position is maybe a little inflated. Like, it's all based on Evan Ingram going nuts in week 1. They haven't allowed anything to tight ends the past 3 weeks. So, some might look at that and say this is a slam dunk. I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I will take the over here.
Steven.
Yeah, I'm with Garion, but I'm going to take the under on this one too. He took the over, which I totally get, but I feel like this is a perfect storm for this to totally bust at 3.5. It feels like a low number to overcome. But we look at when Davante Adams was off the field last season, Jimmy Graham only saw a 2% bump in his target share. MVS was the clear winner here at nearly 12% target share increase with Davante Adams off the field. And I was going to bring up about how Evan Ingram destroyed this Cowboys team before, and then really nothing has happened since then. So this is just such a classic case of when Jimmy Graham would let you down in a spot where you feel like he's going to, bring you something, because he had those 6 receptions on 9 targets last week. That's just not the type of play he's going to get in and week out. I think this is an under.
Rosalie, do you believe?
Ooh, I get to disagree with these guys on this one.
Woo-hoo!
No, look at what here's what happened last week and the change in that Rodgers to Jimmy Graham connection. This has nothing to do with Davante Adams. It has nothing to do with whether or not he's going to get more targets because of that. Aaron Rodgers came out and said he wanted to target Jimmy Graham more. And what happened? 9 targets. Ooh. 9 targets, 6 receptions. If Aaron Rodgers wants to get you the ball, he's going to get you the ball. Plus, they're going up against Dallas, which is the worst against the short pass. So 6.5 targets to the tight ends on average from Dallas. Yeah, I like this a lot. I think he easily shatters it.
Okay, no Rex Burkhead for the Patriots, but once again, friendly reminder, we do have this exclusive video of Tom Brady showing up to FedEx Field in D.C. I know. Rosalie, I got to get to you real quick. You have the best fashion sense out of anyone I have ever talked to on this program. Your thoughts on this wardrobe, this outfit of the day?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I normally like what Tom Brady wears. He's got a great fashion advisor there with Giselle. So I normally like what Tom Brady wears, but I'm giving him the big old thumbs down on this outfit.
Yes, it looks like he is wearing the clothes of Brendan Glasheen's girlfriend, which is quite bizarre. But DK Sportsbook is giving Sony Michel 61.5 rushing yards today. Is that number too high or too low, Rosalie? We have 90 seconds to go.
I think it's too high. They're just not using him. They're using him, but he's just not effective. So too high. Don't trust in Sony Michel at all. Rex Burkhead, no Rex Burkhead. It's going to be a James White game.
Garion, would you wear that jacket that
I would
Brendan Glasheen was wearing?
Totally would wear that jacket, and I would totally take the over on 61.5 rushing yards. Washington has the highest opponent rushing rate in the NFC this season at 48%. If the Patriots are going to run the football, it's going to be a Sony Michel script. And look, he hasn't produced all that much, but he's got 15 carries in at least 3 of the 4 games so far this season. I think that's enough volume to get there against Washington.
Steve, how confident are you this guy can hit 61.5 rushing yards?
Put it this way, I'll take the over on this one just because of the matchup, but this is not something I'd be looking to take at all. You can never figure out the Patriots running back game. This would be a classic game where Bill Belichick trolls everybody and Damian Harris has 20 carries because that's just something they would do.
And Steve, that was the first time you saw Tom Brady's entrance video today. Would you like to share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm ashamed to be associated with him as a coworker and as a person that I see on a daily basis.
Honestly, dude, I respect your honesty.
Thank you.
To our friends at News 12 Plus watching in New York, first off, thank you. Second, we are bidding farewell to you right now. But do not worry, the sweat keeps rolling on until 1 o'clock on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the DK Live app. We've got scorching hot takes, though, coming your way right after some of Levitan's leverage.
We are already a month into the NFL season, but we never tire of games, and we definitely do not get sick of Levitan's leverage. Week 5 edition with Adam Levitan. I'm Adam Kaufman. Levy, you nailed Kerryon Johnson and Cooper Kupp last week. Let's see how you do this weekend, all right?
Yeah, stay hot, buddy.
All right, there you go. Bengals need to get some offense from somewhere, so why not Auden Tate, right? 3,500 at home against the also winless Cardinals. A.J. Green still out. John Ross is on IR now. Arizona's defense, one of the worst in the league. Is this an automatic play?
Wow, you explained it very well. You should be the one answering the questions. Yeah, I mean,
I just like to take all your answers before you give them to me.
I'm not that high in general on Auden Tate's talent. He ran like a 4.7, but he is 6'5", 228. I've seen some good comps between him and Kelvin Benjamin, and I just want to play guys against Arizona. That's the bottom line. I know Andy Dalton was embarrassed on prime time in week 4. I think they bounced back at home here.
Adam Thielen, Vikings star, 6,700 on the road to battle the Giants. Now, I guess my question is, can we actually depend on Kirk Cousins to get him the ball?
Yeah, I mean, the real question is will the Vikings call enough pass plays? Because if they do, I think Adam Thielen will play really well here. Giants, one of the worst pass rushes in the entire NFL, one of the worst secondaries in the entire NFL. The question is always, is it just going to be Dalvin Cook all day? And maybe it will be, but I think Daniel Jones is talented enough, and this Giants offense is talented enough to force Kirk Cousins into 25, 30 attempts. And under that scenario, Adam Thielen is going to be a great, great play at 6,700.
Okay, let's do one more. It's DeAndre Hopkins, most expensive receiver on the slate. He's 7,800. Hop is home to face the Falcons. He's only averaging 49 yards a game on 8 targets per. Hasn't reached the end zone the last 3 weeks, but obviously you like the matchup, so why?
Yeah, I mean, these guys at DraftKings with these salaries, man, he just keeps having bad game after bad game. The salary doesn't go down, so I don't like that. What I do like is that we know he's faced Jalen Ramsey, he's faced Casey Hayward, he's faced James Bradbury. And those are 3 really, really tough matchups for any wide receiver. Now Kenny Stills is questionable for the Texans, and now he gets a home game against the Falcons. So obviously, really, really good spot for DeAndre Hopkins. I wish that his price was cheaper, but maybe that'll keep his ownership down a little bit.
Guys, I've done such a hell of a good job hosting this show. I'm going to reward all of my hard work with a 5-minute break now. Julian, Steve, and Reed, just 3 dudes sitting on stools talking about sports. They have some hot takes they'd like to share. Again, this is when Julian yells, so you guys pay attention to him.
Turn your volume down a little bit.
Yep.
Thanks, Emerson.
Guys, that was so unnecessary for everybody in the control room and everybody at home. So my hot take for this week, for week 5, is going to be that Teddy Bridgewater actually throws for over 300 yards in this game against the Buccaneers.
Not 500?
No. Even though it's a hot take, we actually want to give some realistic projections or takes on this show, unlike Julian with his 500-yard run home. If only he had taken Jared Goff, he would have looked brilliant, but, that's just the story of Julian's life. So, obviously, if the Buccaneers' run defense is as good as we think it is so far, this is going to be a game where Bridgewater is going to have to air it out almost all game long. We like the matchup from Michael Thomas against Vernon Hargreaves, who's already allowed 269 receiving yards win target against so far this season. If Kamara's not going to get it done on the ground, maybe some quick checkdowns to Kamara. We know what he can do when he gets the ball. We like that too as well. But we haven't even seen Bridgewater exceed 200 passing yards. But I'm just going to take a step forward, go to 300 here against the Buccaneers in a potential shootout. So Teddy Bridgewater over 300.
So the number on DK Sportsbook is set at 220.5. The juice is leaning towards people betting the over there because the Bucs are coming off allowing 500 to Jared Goff. So if I have this straight, Bucs has somebody going less than 80 yards over their player prop against a defense that allowed 500 yards to a quarterback last week and has them going for 300 in this one in a dome in New Orleans. I would consider it a mild take at best, and I think it's completely reasonable.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Steve. I mean, I don't know if that was a passive-aggressive no, I don't like your take, Steve, but Like, I agree with him. I really like Teddy Bridgewater. 300 yards, like he's a game manager. He is the quintessential game manager. You're probably going to want to hand it off to Kamara as much as possible, but that Tampa Bay defense, yes, really strong against the run. They faced Todd Gurley, who really hasn't shown much, but I really have no holes to poke in this argument. I really like Teddy Bridgewater. 300 yards, it's no 500-yard Mahomes, but
stupid.
For Teddy Bridgewater, 300 might be the equivalent for Mahomes going 500. My take, though, I know we talked about a lot of high over-unders here at game totals. Cincinnati and Arizona will be the highest over-under, highest game total on the slate. Take away Kansas City and the Colts, take away Houston and Atlanta. It's going to be Cincinnati and this pretty bad Arizona team. But here's the reason why. Both of these defenses are absolutely atrocious. When you talk about fantasy points given up, talk about the QB1s here. Both Dalton and Kyler Murray, Julian's boy Kyler Murray, are going to finish as QB1s because both of these teams have terrible secondaries. Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver 1 this week. Anybody that lines up against this guy, whether it be Jesse Bates, whether it be Sean Williams, whether it be anybody, they are terrible at covering. This game is going to be the highest. I don't care if they're bad teams. I don't care if their offensive lines are terrible. They're going to be passing it a ton. They might not score as much as maybe Julian might think Kansas City is going to score, but give me this as the highest game total on the slate.
So, as part of your hot take in there, we've got Kyler Murray and Andy Dalton are going to be QB1s. Yep. That doesn't even make sense. Which one's going to score more? And Larry Fitzgerald's going to be the highest scoring receiver on the slate?
QB1s, not the QB1. QB1s. And Larry Fitzgerald, highest.
Tied exactly for the same points.
Yeah, Murray and Dalton are, so that means they're top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Fine, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And the over/under is just a caveat.
Yeah, in terms of the total, I'll take Houston Atlanta. I think that's going to be the highest scoring game, even with the highest total set in Kansas City. There, I thought you were even going to cop out and say no, that's not on the slate. It's a Sunday night game, but at least you included it. So a little bit of respect there, throwing the highest total in there. I like a lot of plays in this game, though, so I think it is going to be good for fantasy production. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I'm not going to agree with Reed because that would be boring, and I think Atlanta-Houston's going to be higher scoring.
I think this game actually has a chance to hit the under. If anybody watched Monday Night Football when Andy Dalton was throwing the ball against the Steelers secondary, he looked absolutely atrocious. I don't think all of a sudden it's going to get right in this matchup against the Cardinals. Is there plays to like in this game? Absolutely. Like Auden Tate is probably one of the more popular cash game plays because of how cheap he is overall. Kyler Murray against his Bengals secondary is something to like too as well, but we've seen how many times Murray has gotten hit. We've seen how many times Andy Dalton just can't make throws at this point. It's two bad teams going against each other. That doesn't mean all of a sudden they're going to get everything right and all these points are going to happen. That's just not how it works.
Both of these teams terrible at running the ball. Stay on the set next time. Both these teams are running the ball. It
doesn't matter if you walk off the set every week. That just loses its impact.
That's true.
It does, but let's hear Julian's and we'll
see
how
time for Steve to walk off the set. Go big or go home. All these mild takes. The Oakland Raiders are getting shut out today in London. They're throwing a goose egg on the board against the Chicago Bears. There's nothing to like about Oakland in this spot. Tyrell Williams ruled out. That just adds a little bit more gravy on top of it. Oakland has gone to London this will be their third straight season. The first time they went, they scored 8 points. The last time they went, they scored 3 points last year against the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to keep going down, and it's going to be 0 today against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are allowing 11.25 points per game through 4 games this season. They have a fantastic defense that is going to be highly motivated by Khalil Mack in this revenge spot, trying to keep his foot on the pedal the entire game and keep Oakland from scoring. Goose egg.
I don't hate this.
Let's go!
I really don't hate it. I mean, the Tyrell Williams getting ruled out is a major caveat here. I mean, he's been the go-to red zone guy for Derek Carr. It hasn't been Darren Waller. Waller gets actually almost no looks in the red zone, so maybe that changes today. Maybe they get something going with Josh Jacobs, but we haven't seen that all season long. Maybe they actually start throwing to him in this game. Maybe that will actually bring something, but wow, there's really not much to like about the Raiders here. I mean, shutouts rarely happen in football, so maybe we won't go too hard on that, but
well, the hot take is that they will be
under 10 points. I think that's totally possible.
Team total 16.5.
That's a complete under for me.
Choose the best defense, arguably, in the last.
The Patriots have the best defense.
No, that's why I said arguably. Calm down.
I'm arguing with you. It's the Patriots.
You don't know vocabulary if that's the case. Arguably one of the best best defenses in the NFL. Sans the Patriots up here in Boston. and against one of the worst offenses. So yeah, go with the goose egg for the Raiders, who have arguably their best receiver out, maybe not Darren Waller. Yeah, good call, because look, the Raiders can't get anything going. You talk about mild takes. All you need to do is score a field goal. They can probably muster up a field goal over in London. So talk about mild takes. If you want to say all three of ours are mild, that's the worst.
You just argued against it and said they are going to score. So then mine is the hottest take.
They're not. Whatever.
Mine's the hottest.
These guys are really cute.
Take.
Emerson, back to you, buddy.
Oh, back to me?
Yep.
Okay, guys. Friendly reminder, everyone at home, be part of the sweat, please. Keep your questions coming. We're going to answer some of them here momentarily. You can do it on Twitter, on Facebook Live, on YouTube. So, gentlemen, while I have you here, let's hit up some of these questions. I'll start on Facebook. A young man by the name of Samir. Hey, Emerson. First time, long time. You're the hottest host I've ever seen. DFS question for you and your lovely panel. Alshon or Josh Gordon? I'll hang up and listen with a kiss emoji. Reed, go ahead.
I like Alshon in this spot, Philadelphia. They really have a lot of weapons there, but give me Jeffrey.
Steve, do you agree?
Yeah, I'll take Alshon in this one too as well.
Play Josh Gordon, Samir.
Okay, no one's listening to you. I'll send this one to you, though, Julian. Let's see. William Delancey on Twitter asks, Kyler Murray or Watson?
Oh, I love Kyler Murray, but I got to go Deshaun Watson here against that Atlanta secondary. Fuller and Hopkins could both have really big games here.
Reed, you disagree with him?
Yeah, it's going to be Kyler Murray. This is the same guy who was yelling at the top of his lungs preseason that Kyler was a top 5 quarterback. Now he gets the best matchup.
It's called daily fantasy sports, Reed. This is who I like today. And you haven't heard me scream at the top of my lungs.
Oh, I feel sorry for your loved ones.
Steven, Deontay Johnson or Allen Robinson II? We are over on YouTube now, people.
I actually like Robinson a lot. I think Chase Daniel, I think, is actually more of an upgrade for them at the moment. So I'll take Allen Robinson in this spot.
Reed, pick 2 of the following 4. I know, these are always my favorite. James Conner, Wayne Gallman, David Montgomery, or Josh Jacobs?
Oh, that's an easy one.
It's going to be Montgomery and Gallman for me.
Wait, what?
What?
Okay, go ahead and react real quick.
No.
That's it?
You're an idiot.
No, not playing James Conner. Okay. Next question.
Sorry, guys. We'll do that in the next block because producer Steph says we have to wrap. We'll take a last-minute look at today's main slate right after Pat Mayo gives us some sleepers to not sleep on.
Pat Mayo here in studio with you, telling you a little bit about the guys at the very bottom of the DraftKings pricing that maybe you want to check into a lineup this week. I mean, you could have watched all of this on the live Pat Mayo Experience, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time every single Sunday on the DraftKings YouTube and Facebook page. And if you did miss that, I don't know what you're doing. It's a horrible idea. But hey, I'll give you a little mini recap of what's going on. It's myself, Chris Meany from The Athletic is here as well. Let's talk about some guys. Running back, no one.
Nobody. No real reason to get cute, Pat. There's nobody I really like. I mean, Jacobs $4,500 in a very tough matchup against the Bears defense. No thanks, not going to go there.
The only 2 I can really think of is if you do think the Patriots get out to a huge lead.
And they probably will.
Then Chris Thompson ends up piling up a bunch of catches and he could have 3/4 of garbage time. The only other one is Royce Freeman, who's just splitting snaps with Phillip Lindsay right now, and he's just cheaper. He's $4,600 against a bad run defense with the Chargers. I don't like it. I'm probably not going to do it, but if you had to go down and save, I think those are the 3 names, and I don't like any of them.
No, I out of those 3 names, I think Chris Thompson is the guy. We've seen this role before from him, and if they are down, and they will likely be down, Adrian Peterson will just not be a factor, and it's going to be the Chris Thompson show, and it's not going to be a big show, but he's going to catch a few balls at least.
So the big thing here is if we're going to end up paying up at running back and spending a lot of money on these good guys, we almost have to pay down at every other spot. So I think that at receiver, you could go Robbie Anderson or Will Fuller in those mid-4s. But if you need to save even more money, I like Trent Sherfield, $3,000. He got double the snaps last week when Damiere Byrd sat. Damiere Byrd is sitting again. Christian Kirk is out this week.
Yeah.
And it's a game where we expect just a lot of plays to be run, so why not take the shot? We did it last week with Dontrell Inman, and he went 4x his price. Like, you're not looking for Trent Sherfield to score 38 points.
No.
If he can score 13,
Yeah.
The money he saves you gives you access to the McCaffreys, the Delvin Cooks, all the good running backs, that it's worth the trade-off if you can just do anything.
Yeah, exactly. You get double-digit points. Inman worked out for you if you played him last week. It's a great comparison. And then inside the same game, the guy's probably going to be a little bit more chalky.
Little bit more
chalky is Auden Tate. I mean, 16 targets in his last 2 games, and John Ross is sidelined. But, I mean, Dalton and Kyler Murray both rank in the top 5 in passing attempts. Both defenses not very good, having some issues running the football. So you figure both of those guys are going to be involved this week.
Yeah, right now I think that Auden Tate is probably going to end up being the highest owned receiver for good cause. You just listed all of the reasons. He's a good play at $3,500. I think in giant tournaments you have to think about fading him, and whether that's to go down to Sherfield or just taking Alex Erickson, who's also starting for the Bengals, who's cheaper in that same game, and just hope it works out.
Sure.
Unlikely to work out, but you just got to have some faith here every once in a while.
Yeah.
Tight end, everyone's using Eifert. He's going to be the most popular tight end. The Cardinals suck against tight ends.
Yeah.
Very logical. Yeah. He's super cheap. Noah Fant is really the one I would look at that if you're going to pay down. But again, this is almost a situation where if you can get to Hooper maybe at 45, that's the move.
Yeah, I think I would spend up. But yeah, Hooper, Waller is maybe a guy that's going to be a little bit more interesting, lower owned just because of the matchup. But he is the focal point of that offense.
And Tyrell Williams is injured as well, that he might see even more targets than usual.
Absolutely. And so they might have to throw the ball there and have some success. But yeah, I think Fant is also an interesting guy. And Eifert, I probably try to shy away from him. He's not getting that same kind of volume that Will Dissly. Like when we talked last week, like Dissly was chalk as well, but at least he was a big part of that offense. Like Eifert isn't.
Yeah, the big thing with Eifert here is, what if he just has a catch for 5 yards and a touchdown? That's fine.
Yeah.
But, that's not good.
No, it's not great.
That's worth fading if that ends up being the scenario.
Yeah. He's not getting those targets. Like, Dissly was coming in hot. Like, he was getting all of the red zone looks, and he was getting targets from Russell Wilson. This is not the case right now with Eifert. And Uzomah's in play. Who knows?
He could be.
Yeah, he could get that touchdown. It would be typical.
Last one, defenses. I got 3. It's funny, we talked about all these offensive skill guys for the Bengals and Cardinals. Both defenses very much in play as well, and no one's going to use them.
And everyone's going to want to stack this game because of things like I just said, like Murray's throwing the ball a lot, Dalton's throwing the ball a lot. Defense is not great, but that doesn't matter. If they're going to be tossing the ball a lot, you're going to maybe get some sacks and some picks. And Dalton's been sacked the second most out of anybody, and Arizona's been getting to the quarterback lately.
Yeah, both of these defenses fall in the bottom 5 of offensive line DVOA adjusted sack rate. Almost close to 10% of dropbacks. One of these two guys goes down.
Exactly.
And there's going to be a lot of plays in these games, and that's what we're looking for. People are using the Panthers and Titans in games where teams are going to run the ball. Running, not conducive with fantasy points whatsoever. The only other one, the Steelers are mispriced because this doesn't account for the Monday game where they had 9 sacks.
Yeah.
I know it's against Baltimore. It's not great, but you can sack Lamar because he's just going to try to run so much.
Yeah, for sure. They're certainly in play, and the price is nice. And the defense actually has been pretty good since they got Fitzpatrick. It's been decent.
It's been okay.
Yeah, it's been all right.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. You can check me out every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you want a recap of all the games and the waiver wire picks-ups and some showdown contests, I'm live again Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. DraftKings YouTube channel, DraftKings Facebook channel. Check it out on Twitter at the PME. You can hit me up with questions as well. But for Meany, I'm Mayo. Back to you in the studio.
Hey guys, welcome back. It is the last block of the show. Before I introduce our final panel for this show, I'm going to remind you that Tito, our little curly four-legged friend, ended up going with, what was it again, Steph? It was the Green Bay Atlanta one, as you can see him eating the snack out of the bowl. That is the underdog parlay. So odds go from 634, what was that, up to 750, plus 750, I believe. And now it is time for me to introduce said panel. All right, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Gary Thorne, and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels. Guys, we are working up a sweat here. Last minute takes on today's slate. Is there anyone you loved coming into today that you are now pivoting off of, Jeff?
Yeah, I kind of liked Amari Cooper going into the week. I thought he might be a sneaky pivot off of Ezekiel Elliott. Everyone targeting the Green Bay run defense, which has been bad. But Cooper's admitted he's not 100%. I think with Michael Gallup coming back, it just opens up the possibilities that Dak Prescott's going to be able to work that former Packer Randall Cobb and Michael Gallup and not have to worry about Jari Alexander covering or shadowing Amari Cooper. So I'm kind of off Cooper. I do like pivoting down to Michael Thomas in that range for DraftKings.
Okay, Rosalie.
Yeah, I'm off of Mike Evans. I mean, I know people are going to go crazy over this, but that seemingly really tasty matchup versus the Saints. But after watching Marshawn Lattimore contain Amari Cooper last week, who's been much more effective on the year, he contained him to 9.8 DK fantasy points. It's got me a little bit concerned because we've really only seen one really good game out of Mike Evans. The rest of the time, it's been Chris Godwin, and I think this is another Godwin week. Godwin is $200 less than Mike Evans is, and is scoring 0.67 fantasy points per route, which is on par with Keenan Allen, who has more targets and receptions. BA loves this guy. I love this guy, and clearly Jameis loves this guy. So I think it's another Godwin versus Evans week.
All right, Garion, did you love a guy earlier this week who you now no longer love?
Yeah, even coming into today, I had a bunch of Matt Ryan lineups, and I've pretty much taken every single one and turned it into a Deshaun Watson lineup. I just think that when you look at these two quarterbacks, again, this is really not that big a knock against Matt Ryan himself. I think there's a lot of QBs above 6K this week that are very, very viable. But I just look at Ryan, and I think even in his own game, he's not the best play. I mean, the only knock you can conceivably come up with against Deshaun Watson isn't even a Deshaun Watson knock. It's a knock on the offensive line protecting him and how much time he has to throw. The Falcons have been unable to get pressure on any quarterback so far this season. They've got one of the 5 lowest adjusted sack rates in all of football. I just think Watson is clearly the better play, and it's just made me pivot off of Matt Ryan.
Rosalie, who was your favorite value play on this main slate?
I think this is the first time that I actually have a quarterback as my value play. It's Chase Daniel versus Oakland out there in London. Yeah, he's $4,800, and Oakland gives up over 25 points per game, 2.3 passing touchdowns a game, 287 passing yards, and 24.2 fantasy points a game. Yeah, last year in October in London, Oakland gave up 27 points to the Seahawks, and Chase looked really effective last week versus Minnesota, a much more difficult defense with 195 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. $4,800 for a QB. Yeah.
Garion, do you have a value play at quarterback, or are you going elsewhere?
No, I'm going to go with running back here. I love Jalen Samuels this week, and it's not even really about buying into the Steelers just obsessing over the Wildcat formation, but he was just so utilized when he was on the field last week. It's hard to ignore him at $4,100. Played 26 snaps and essentially had the opportunity to touch the football 21 different times. I mean, usage rate is a basketball stat, not a football stat, but his usage rate for his snap rate was crazy. And I really like the over in this Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. I just think there's the opportunity for a lot of points to be scored. And for Samuels, who became the first player in NFL history to attempt 3 passes, run the ball 10 times, and be targeted 5 times in the same game, there's just such a wealth of opportunity for him to rack up points. I think he's a great price point. I think he's got a huge opportunity in this offense. And I think the Steelers are going to score some points with a quarterback who is targeting his running back 60% of the time in week 4.
Cold shower there, Ulrich. I know you're on the Samuels train.
Garion, what up me? I was going to talk about Jalen Samuels too. And just to pile on here, I mean, look, Jalen Samuels can throw for a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown. It's not that far-fetched that happens. Those pop passes he's given to James Conner, those count, people. So don't be shocked if something crazy like that happens today. I obviously really like it, even with Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster active. But I'll give out another value play. I like Noah Fant. If you need a cheap tight end this week, I mean, he's getting the targets. He's getting red zone targets consistently. The Chargers aren't that good. This is a pretty explosive player. Definitely capable of taking like a 25, 30-yard touchdown pass. I like it. I mean, it's 2,800. There's just not many other players under sub-3 you can even consider. I think Font actually has enough upside to play here for sure. So Noah Font at 2,800 definitely in play.
Gary, and anyone you think we should be absolutely fading?
I'm off MVS. I think if you're in a situation where you have to start Valdez-Scantling in a season-long league, I completely understand that. I think he's a more than viable back-end wide receiver too. I just don't think he has the upside for me in this matchup. Dallas has been pretty stout against wide receivers so far this season. We don't really have a track record here for how Aaron Rodgers is going to utilize his weapons when he's down Devontae Adams. If you don't count week 17 of last season where Rodgers played a couple snaps in a game that the Packers were just willing to give away. He hasn't been without Davante Adams in a start since 2015. So it could be an Allison game. It could be a Jimmy Graham game. I think Valdez-Scantling is good, and I think he's worth starting somewhere. But DFS is not exactly where I'm looking to get my exposure to MVS.
Rosalie, who you fading?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same chain he is. I'm going Aaron Rodgers here, though. 6K. No Adams versus the Dallas defense that is not allowing the opposing offenses to score many touchdowns, So I think it's going to be a slower pace of game. We're going to see lots of Zeke. And Rodgers versus good defenses this year. Denver, Minnesota, and Chicago, 15.63 was the highest fantasy point totals that he had in those games. So I'm off of Rodgers.
Okay, Jeffrey, that leaves you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tyler Boyd here at 6,500. Obviously, the matchup is nice, and everyone's talking about the pace. But you look at a couple things. I mean, I just don't know how you can trust the Bengals offense week in, week out. I mean, yes, I know John Ross is hurt, but that could bump up Auden Tate. That could bump up Tyler Eifert in a really plus matchup for Tyler Eifert. Doesn't necessarily mean Tyler Boyd is going to get consistent targeting because he hasn't been consistent. He's had 1 or 2 pop games, and that's it. And then the other factor is you look at it, DFS pricing. Adam Thielen is there. I mean, Michael Thomas is just above him. These are superior players on slightly or really more superior offenses. You can also go down to Alshon Jeffrey, who's got multiple touchdown upside against the Jets. So I just can't get behind it at that price point. Tyler Boyd for me.
All right, let's go to slate-approved picks here before we get to some questions. Jeff, 1 o'clock slate-approved pick, and another slate-approved pick for the 4 o'clock games.
Yeah, for the early games, I'll go with DeAndre Hopkins. It might be a little bit chalky, but I just don't really care. Atlanta just does not have a pass rush. They don't have a good number 1 corner. This is an absolutely get-right spot for DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion. And then the later games, I'm going to go with Aaron Jones. I really just don't know how the Packers are going to move the ball. Aaron Rodgers has no connection with any other wide receiver with Davante Adams out. I think Aaron Jones is going to be in for a big PPR day.
Rosalie.
Yeah, the early game, I think I'm all about the quarterbacks this week. I'm going Tom Brady versus Washington.
Ooh.
Hello. Patriots have a slate high 28.75 implied total, and the Redskins are number 29 against the pass. So I think Tom Brady has a banner day. He's been throwing the ball really well. He's got 3 great wide receivers that he can throw to, plus James White. So Tom Brady for my early game. For the late game, it's Zeke. It's all about Zeke. The number 1 funnel defense versus run is Green Bay. Almost 200 all-purpose yards and over 1.5 total touchdowns per game to the running back position. So it's Zeke all day. It's going to be a huge game for him.
All right, Garion, wrap us up.
Yeah, for the 1 p.m. slate, I'm actually going to take the Bears defense. I just think this is a spot where nothing Oakland can do will be preventing these guys from scoring massive amounts of points. We don't have to get into like the revenge aspects of this, but I know Julian was already on the show last segment talking about how he thinks Oakland's not going to score a single point in this game, and that's not that crazy a take considering just how elite the Bears defense has looked. $3,800 is a lot to pay for a defense, but it's not the most expensive. Patriots are $500 more expensive, so I'll lock in the Bears on the early slate. And then, like Rosalie said, I'm just not sure how you avoid Ezekiel Elliott in the 4 p.m. games. He's got the best matchup you could possibly draw as a running back. Green Bay giving up 2nd most adjusted line yards per carry and the most targets per game to opposing backfields in the NFC. There's just everything to love in that spot.
All right, quickly, we got a couple minutes to go here. Gary and Stephanie French Fry on Facebook asks, Juju or Le'Veon Bell in the flex?
There I would go Le'Veon Bell. I'm a little concerned about Juju's health. I think Bell has enough of a volume upside where I'm comfortable taking him over Juju.
Aiden asks, hey, Emerson, love the show, man. Really love you. Can you ask Jeff how his weekend is going? I love that guy.
It's going okay. I mean, my kids were a little disruptive this morning, but my wife took them to the park. They should get some exercise. The rest of the day looks good.
Okay, how about you answer this one for Jason Ford? Jalen Samuels or Gallman? Go ahead. I know.
Me?
Yeah, you. Go ahead.
I just figured the answer was obvious. Jalen Samuels.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted you to answer that. Rosalie, does this gentleman start Shepard or Auden Tate?
Oh, you got to go Auden Tate. I mean, it's just, I like Shepard this week as well, but Arizona's pass defense, just not that good. Auden Tate's getting a lot of hype, and there's a reason why. Hopefully, Dalton can get the ball to him. That's the only concern, but I'm going Auden Tate here.
Gary and Sterling Shepard or Allen Robinson, PPR?
Allen Robinson. I really don't think this is a situation where I have to worry about the Bears quarterback situation. Robinson's the number one target there. He will remain that with Chase Daniel behind center.
Okay, Jeff, Matt Ryan or Jacoby Brissett?
Oh, that is an interesting one. I mean, Brissett is kind of set up for some serious garbage time, but I'm going to lead Matt Ryan. I just got too much invested in this Houston-Atlanta game, going for the big points, and I think Matt Ryan, at the very least, is going to get some serious garbage time action, so I'll lead Matt Ryan.
Rosalie, DJ Chark, Diggs, or Golden Tate?
It's Diggs. I'm going to go Diggs here simply because I think that they're going to need to quench his little fire that he's got going on. I think he definitely gets a touchdown this weekend. It's hard to know what Golden Tate is going to be doing yet, just starting out. And I don't trust the Jaguars offense quite as much as you guys do, sadly. Okay. But so I'm going Diggs. I think he has a decent game.
All right, guys, thank you. That's a show. We are in overtime right now, so we must end it. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, and next weekend, same time, same place.